Good day, welcome to the Stomp It podcast. In this episode, I talk to no one less than Tom Gellie. He runs Big Picture Skiing. It's similar like Stomp It Tutorials, but for people who love turning. I had a blast recording this podcast, and I feel like I personally finally learned how to do a podcast or like relax and have a nice conversation. So please let me know in the comments below, if you're watching it on YouTube, how you like it, and if I should have Tom back on the show. You can expect to learn a fair bit of things about turning, boot modifications, and the biggest mistakes skiers do and the biggest mistakes ski instructors do in, I guess, both of our opinions. Enjoy this wide-ranging conversation with Tom Gellie.
Can I actually start? I want to ask you, when did you start Stomp It Tutorials? What year did you?
That's not how podcasting works. I ask you, mate. No, just kidding. Well, I started it in my student dorm in northern Sweden, December 2012. I started tinkering. Use some old footage, tried doing something, and then I went to Larks to ski instruct for January that year, and I started filming for my first online course. And then I came back to Sweden to start editing it for a few weeks, and then I came back here for another 5 weeks because I was studying up there. And then I edited till like November. And then I had made like an hour-long online course for freestyle skiers. And then I like watched through it all, and I was like, this is bullshit. I can't go online with this. So then I came back here again in January and filmed it one more time and edited it for like another 10 months or something on the side of everything else I was doing. And then I went online January 2015.
So January 2015 was really when you could buy a Stomp It tutorial on how to freestyle ski.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was 3 years prior to that it really began.
Yeah, 2 years.
2 years.
2 years and 2 years and like 2 months.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. And like, how many? Like, do you kind of pinch yourself that this is what you do now?
Yes and no. It was always my plan that like, okay, now I'm committing to this. I'm going to make a living by teaching freestyle skiing the way I think it makes sense, and, you know, guided by others. I have a very small ego, and I'm very happy to learn from the other guys who are like coaching camps with me, etc. Try to only work with people I am curious to work with. Like, I'd like to spend a week next to this person and see what they're doing different than myself. So yeah, it's taken many years now. We kind of 9 years, but I usually count January 2015 as like the birth date of Stomp It. It's just not completely true.
Yeah, that's cool. I would say you come across that way too. That, you know, that you just want to learn as much as anyone else does. You don't really care that you're not like a sponsored pro Red Bull, you know, dude. You love it, and yeah, because most people are like that. They just like getting a bit better, but not everyone wants to be a pro, and so needs to kind of get advice only from a pro. And so you've done Stomp It. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And so you go ahead.
So I started kind of because I always came back to like, I'd love to like run something myself, because I'm not a very good employee, or I did fine on all the jobs I ever did. But it was also a part of the frustration, because I was ski instructing and freestyle instructing up here on the mountain in Larks, and I would get really annoyed when I see people hurt themselves. And I would, I'd be frustrated. to see people injure themselves or lose the love for freestyle skiing because they didn't know better. They didn't have anyone to guide themselves, because freestyle skiing can be rather safe if done properly and not too intense. That leads me on to a question with you. What frustrates you in freestyle skiing? No, not freestyle, but skiing. You could teach terms a bit more than I do.
Okay, so do you mean what frustrates me? Like when I go skiing, what in my own skiing frustrates me, or the ski?
No, with others.
With others.
Because I just said how I get frustrated when people hurt themselves because of loss of, not so much guidance. With normal ski technique, I bet something frustrates you too, that you kind of just want to fix the world.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the same thing. I think I would just say I'm on a quest to try and find the best explanations with skiing, teaching skiing, because, okay, maybe what frustrates me has frustrated me is ambiguous or not clear instructions when you're being taught from others on how to do it. Like, that's probably where it's come from. Like, I even remember, I've probably said this before on another podcast, but I remember when I got my level 3 CSIA Canadian instructor certificate, and I was really drunk celebrating in the bar at Silver Star, and I actually didn't know this, but I yelled out that, you know, when I become an examiner or whatever, I'm going to ban the word rotation, because like it seemed like a bad word, and it just didn't make sense to me. I can remember early on saying, like, I don't see when you're saying that you only turn with the legs and you only turn with the lower body. Like, I'm watching a video and like it doesn't look just like that. It doesn't look like this mannequin doll from a clothing shop that you just twist the legs. Do you know what I mean? It looks like more integrated, and the upper body is doing some things. So I think I've been frustrated with just the way things have been described. Like, that's it. And I just actually finished recording an interview with this guy, Benji Alexander, who's he's an Olympic hopeful for Jamaica. And he's only learned to ski 5 years ago. So skiing is very fresh.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And you know what? It's like we had this conversation about, you know, like there's these things like getting forward and stand on your outside ski, and you can hear it over and over again. And, you know, like, you know, everyone says it, but what does it really mean? And, you know, he's like, you know, there's just this one time it'll click because people rearranged the words maybe in a different order, or they just added one more word to it, and then bam, there it goes. And so I think in the ski instructing world, it's very easy to just copy the person that coached you and say exactly the same things that they said to you, and maybe one of those things worked. So you think that same phrase is going to work for everyone else you teach. And unfortunately, it doesn't. So
I have a similar thing with freestyle skiing, where I've tried so many different ways to teach people how to pop. It's my main frustration when I'm teaching someone how to take off from a jump. You know, everybody knows how to do it in their shoes, everybody, or barefoot. And it's really not different at all on skis. It just you got this limited range of motion in the ski boots that kind of throws people off. And I notice it so often. You change one word and all of a sudden it clicks. Or more frustratingly, like rotate two groups of skiers, and I give the skier to my co-coach Josh, for example, and he says it differently, and boom, they know how to do it. And I'm like, damn it, what exactly did you say, Josh?
Yes. Yeah. So, and what do you think? Because if that's been obviously something you've really thought about a lot. What do you think has really helped? Like, have you gotten a lot better in describing it, or is it not just that? Is it reading that person? Like, what are the steps now you go through that you're like, this person is going to learn to pop so well, or we're not leaving the mountain, you know?
Well, I just know what I do these days, and that is start with standing still, unbuckle everyone's ski boots completely, so it feels as much as possible like doing it in the barefoot or in the shoes. Sometimes even start like the first night of a camp, that everyone like jumps on the spot, jump a little bit forwards, because I think if you have a little bit forward momentum, it's more like doing it off a jump, and then work our way up from there, like straight away, and try to make the people never ever do a jump before doing some drills first, starting with the open ski boots, or somewhat open in the first tiny jumps too. Because when it comes to the pop, everyone has usually learned to jump while they still had fear and no knowledge about how to do it. So they absorb the jump kind of like a ski racer going over a roller, out of fear and just wanting to make the jump as small as possible while having lots of speed. And that is the opposite of what you want to do. In freestyle skiing, you want to go as high as possible, kind of.
Yeah. I think like in that, I think like that's an element that I think is actually a coaching principle. Like, because if something, like, you get people to show like an edging movement, for example, like someone's lacking early edging in their short turn, and indoors you show them how to do it, that there's this usually a step like missing between, okay, they can do it there, they get it, and then like you found this frustration. Everyone can jump without ski boots. You put ski boots on upon a jump, and then suddenly it's all go. They do these opposite movements. And so I think it's really interesting breaking it down and trying to get the smallest steps, as you said, from, okay, now boots are undone, so it's more like there's no ski boot, and making these steps. Like, I think that is something I've learned, especially coaching online, because I can't be there with the person. I have to do a lot of indoor stuff, and then also give them instructions on when you get out on snow, don't go straight to trying it. Like, here's the next little step, because it's just the way the brain works. We work by what we already know and compare to that. So when you're trying something, you have to have something comparable to kind of be in the ballpark of like what you're doing. Oh, it's like 80% like this, but here's the little bit of a difference. But if it's 100% different, then you've almost got no chance.
Yeah, almost no chance. And for you who are listening, I would like to add a little note out of my own personal experience. When I first started paying attention to my own ski technique, I did not enjoy the drills enough, or maybe understood why I had to do these lame things. And in my humble opinion, why you want to do the drills is just that, let's say, we want to change old habits, which is really difficult to do. Everyone falls back to old habits. And almost the only way that I see to change an old habit is to make it so different that the brain has to make like new pathways to do it. An example I have there is that if you ever would like to teach someone how to slide sideways over a box, since that movement is really similar to how to hockey stop, doing one of these quick stops, the brain knows how to do that, and it's going to attempt to do that over the box. And that, leads to hip crashes, bruises and stuff. But then by making it different enough, which would then be to pop and rotate 90 degrees in the air, as long as you do the actual pop in the 90 degrees, it's so different from the hockey stop that people usually pull it off. And that's why you want to do drills, just to do it so different from the normal turn that you can actually process this new thing you want to get into it. What do you think about that thought?
Yeah, well, I want to know what, like, off the top of your head, what was the most boring exercise for, not for freestyle skiing, obviously, but for regular skiing? Like, what was that?
Probably slow, one-legged, skidded turns.
Yeah.
Like,
See,
and ideally really do the whole turn, like lift the uphill ski, initiate the turn on the downhill ski, do that sort of thing just to work on balance, angulation. You work on basically everything. Great drill. I would do many others, or have many others do that too. That one is boring to me.
But it was boring, right? And I think because, well, where you were at in your probably ski technique when you were given that, it probably wasn't applicable, and perhaps the person like, I wouldn't probably give that. I don't prescribe that much as a drill, to be honest, because, like, why is it boring? Well, you're getting none of the fun sensations and forces that you probably like out of carving. Correct? You just got taken, they all got taken away. Now you're skidding around, you're starting a turn like on a flat ski where you're not really leaning into the turn. And you think now, like, the turns you like making, the very top of the turn, you're really inclined over, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so, like, I think that's...
You mean drills can be made fun?
Yeah, I don't see drill. I see drills as fun, especially if they're... Like, they're just tricks in a way. They're tricks. Like, here's a trick. Can you ski on one ski and do this? It may be not the same as normal skiing, but it's kind of a trick in a way. Like, especially a lot of the Swiss instructing drills, the Charleston one, lots of stuff. Like, a lot of that doesn't really help your skiing exactly, right? Like, you won't see ski racers doing that drill, but it's sort of like, in a way, is going to work on some different skills and just get you, knowing where your body is relative to your edges and time things. So I think it really, then it comes back to the coach or the instructor that's giving the drill. Again, my, like, frustration, like, I think a lot of people are just passing on, like, when I did it, my examiner made me do 3 hours of one-legged stalk turn drills, and eventually it got better. But, what if if I came up with you now, my challenge would be, how do I make that actually, you go, ooh, that's different, that's fun? Because,
It is, it's a difficult thing to do. When I was, I think one-legged skiing slowly has been good for me to really feel the initiation of the ski. It really started from the ankle and make it move around. I think it was applicable to me back then. It's just not that fun to slow down. Since I learned to ski properly, like when I was 20 and got into the ski school here, and but I had to learn how to ski properly when I could shred. Like, I could ski fast down, big mountains. I could drop stuff. My freestyle skiing was good. And so it was probably extra frustrating for me to slow down and do drills because of, could shred basically.
What's gotten better then? Now that you've spent some time doing slower drills, what can you actually see it in video or feel it that your skiing is better?
Yeah, for sure. But I don't have much video from before and after, like 10 years ago. I don't have virtually any video of it. I've used it in some video. I showed some free red line I did dropping some ice drop, and it looked kind of rad. And I slowed it down and like, look at this shitty technique there. Everything here is not nice. So I do see that. How do you like explaining, like, to people to get the weight forward? Since you don't like the word like, lean forward, for example. I guess that's words you don't like instructors using.
Oh, no, I think that's just, it's not, I think it's just misunderstood why. It's not that I don't not say that or I don't not like that. I think it is just misunderstood why. And so my like co-coach on big picture skiing, Sam, he's raced world championships level. And so we have discussions about skiing all the time. And this guy can slay a carve turn he's extreme. He can do it on like a backcountry, like a faction 110 underfoot in touring boots on hard snow. Like he's very good, way better than me. Anyway, we talk about how he's like, people don't realize there's not a big forward movement in those turns. Really, you're just trying to stay pretty centered over your foot, because when you get forward on a ski, you change the distribution of pressure along the length of the ski, and you actually cause torque, which can break the ski off the edge. So you'll lose the tail. And that's like down to physics. That was a big aha moment when I interviewed Yuri Franco. So the guy who basically invented the Elan shaped parabolic ski, right? Like This guy through mathematics and physics. I still find it hard sometimes when he sort of describes things because of the physics brain he has. But still, when that sunk in, I was like, wow, there's a bit of a misunderstanding there. And even though, say, you'll hear the best World Cup races, they'll say you need to get forward to bend the tip of the ski to engage it and turn it. I think because they're so hypersensitive, you're maybe doing that a little bit, but it's for a split second. And if you are doing that, even if you slow motion World Cup races, you'll see the back of the ski will not follow exactly the tip of the ski. So there's a bit of a drift going on to maybe get a sharper steering angle. And so that's why they're getting forward. But yeah, if people understood that why you're using that forward movement, then yeah, I think it would be different. I think people would not be overdoing it. I've got a video where I show me here actually standing in my skis and boots and replicate them. I'm just imagining how much I move fore and aft, even on a black groomed run. And then I, show the difference. And it's I don't know, the change is not much. Whereas a lot of people doing it, the ski reacts because the load is under a different point of the edge. And so it's good. So does that answer the question around?
Yeah, kind of. At least with advanced skiers, let's say most people who are listening are probably not that advanced. But they might have heard it from an instructor or friend, hey, you're a bit back-seated, lean forwards, and then they hinge at the hip, just fold, and then the butt goes even further back. For example, that's kind of the setting I had in mind.
Got it. Yeah. So we take it back down to the beginner intermediate skier level. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty similar. So here's something to consider. When you're unweighted, it is very easy to turn a ski. So when a beginner is skiing, carving is probably the furthest thing from what they want to do. They need to, get down the green slope in control, turn when they want. And so you're then talking about, okay, how do you turn these things that are attached to your feet? Well, one way is if you're unweighted a bit, it becomes very easy. As soon as you're pressured back down again, gravity's squashing you into the snow, and it's going to find a way of least resistance. It's going to make you start going down the hill. So I think, so why do they go back? They're trying to find a way to manipulate their ski, because if they're weighted, standing in the middle of the ski, remember back to Sam, my World Cup guy, you stand there, that's where the ski wants to carve. So beginner skier gets told, stand centered at the start of your turn. That ski wants to go off on the edges. lean forward. No, thank you. Like, you know, as you're going, sorry, they're not going to do that. If you go back, you can now pivot the skis, right? You've changed that torque thing. Now the ski doesn't grip along the whole length. You can twist it. So it's just like, it's the human body they're figuring out, oh, that's how I can get around this issue. But see, then you've also got, you could be forward of the center point as well, just a little bit, add a bit of unweighting. Now the ski turns easily. When you're coming back and gravity's squashing you, the edge is not pointing down the hill. Over you go. Yeah. So,
nice.
like, yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think so.
Think about, like, here's one. You know, like, you've got that video with that guy teaching him how to ski. You know the one I'm talking about? There's a beginner tips. There's a guy sort of snowplow level. Do you know the
that
one
I have made?
Yeah, your video.
Oh yeah, that guy. Okay, yep.
Yeah. So
he
that guy.
Seated.
Yeah. So you watch
Loads.
him. Yeah, and think about, well, actually, it's pretty clever. Like, he's doing the right thing. He's putting his weight back and inside of the arc. Now his outside foot is free because it's less weighted. He can now point it where he needs to go because you're telling him to turn. He gets it there. Over he goes. Yeah, and even like people, when they use their poles and leaning in, it's just like, think about like kayaking. How do you turn a kayak? You dig one oar in, now you can pivot around that oar. So people are using their inside ski like a kayaker uses an oar to steer and paddle. So you start telling them, like, get on your outside ski now, again, and the centered ski goes really fast, and it's, you know, it takes a long time to get good. So yeah, so beginner does need to learn to get forward, but if you taught them about how that frees up the ability to sort of pivot, and then also talk about just basically a lot of pressure down, very hard to turn, a lot of like less pressure, easy to turn. I mean, you think you're using that to do tricks. Mm-hmm. You can't do 60 when you're stuck on the snow, but if you get off the snow, you can do lots of spins.
So is this more or less how you're saying it? So in the case of that beginner I was teaching that I never skied before, so he was leaning in and leaning back, so he was kind of lifting the nose, making it kind of all right to skid it around. It's kind of easy, but to then explain that, hey, if you stand more centered and with the up and down movement, you can do the same thing, make it go around. So you kind of want to motivate that a little bit more, that instead of bending the back of the ski, you could be a little bit more centered / forward, and then you're gonna lift the tail of the ski, allowing it to skid around in a more balanced position. You'll be less tired.
Well, you're going to have to really exaggerate how much they're back. You're going to have to get them past center, because if you get them centered, a lot of the time actually centered is going to be scary for them, because like I said, centered is where you want to be to carve. So when you're centered, the ski edge bites tip and tail more evenly. It doesn't want to skid and turn. Mm-hmm. So you have to be either forward or back of that center point to have more torque control over, like make the ski get off the edge. So you see what I mean? Like, you actually got to say, it's not just centered. You really, probably that beginner person, you got to get them really far forward or forward to the point where they can feel that tail is free, pivot it. But then, like I said, the other element of like why I think, like, at a beginner level, you have to teach some up and down movement, because it helps that person be lighter than the skis into the snow. So if they are a bit too centered, pressure in the snow, like if they're a bit lighter, they can still, it's not jammed in there by gravity, and they can still actually turn it a little bit before it starts being pressured. Does that clarify it more?
Yeah, absolutely. Since we're on this theme, what do you think are some of the most common mistakes instructors do when teaching?
Well, I think the first one is, like, and it's not their fault, it's just they don't think for themselves. and when you learn something, you've got to learn from your mentor or your coach or your trainer what to do. And so you're not thinking about it maybe critically, or this could be a problem. Some people, of course, are, different, but that's what I see. It's like learning by rote. Okay, I get a beginner, I do this step, this step, this step, and then they come with a problem. Like, why are they not centered? Why are they back? Why is my drills not working? And so, like, it's a hard job. Like, it's a pretty technical sport, and you learn to be an instructor often in a week, sometimes even like 4 days. And it's like, right, go and teach people. And I'm learning about skiing still to this day, like all these things. And the more I know, the more I can teach it really just simply. And I think, like, I can say something like, when I describe how to get forward, it might sound almost the same as someone who's done like their level 1 instructor course, but there's like perhaps a slight nuance, or like the timing, or, do you know what I mean? Like, and then that I can say that it just comes from experience and like understanding all elements of skiing. So the question is, what's their biggest mistake? I just don't think they know enough for their job. And yeah, you just got to go through experience. But, I think there are now resources out there that you can grab, and,
like yours.
Yeah. And, maybe
you make some good content.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Promoting my stuff here a bit, but I get like emails almost daily from people who are different instructors around the world saying that they appreciate the clear explanations of what, why, and how to do something, and that their lessons have gotten better, that their skiing has gotten better. Their students appreciate things, their students progress faster. So yeah, those resources are there. People can they should check it out if they want. But yeah, that's
you make good stuff.
Yeah, that was lacking with myself back in the day. There was not really many people to go to, and a lot of people just pass on what they've heard from someone else. And if it's worked, we're kind of like, humans are lazy creatures. If it works, you do this, and most of the time it works. You just keep doing that, and you don't bother looking for new ways of doing it that might be better.
Mm-hmm. The most common mistake ski instructors do is not thinking for themselves enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
And I understand why. It's kind of the same thing as normal school system does to people. If you ever attend to a ski instructor course, you are gonna be taught a way or a method, series of steps on how to teach someone how to ski. And the more you deviate from that, the more likely it feels like you're gonna fail. And you adapt your thinking to fit into this mold. And I think, that trains you to think less for yourself. Even if you try to use teaching styles where you try to discuss a topic in pairs or whatever, with the best effort to make people think for themselves, it's I think it's not enough of it too. So I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I think that's what, like you said, it's not their fault. But I think, I don't know, I think it's maybe a bit different in some of the Scandinavian countries, but the education system, in my opinion, how we learn things, I don't think is as efficient as it could be. One of my favorite authors is a guy named Edward de Bono, and a great book for people to check out is one that's called How to Have a Beautiful Mind. And it's just it's really easy to read. You could pick up and just open it at one section, and it'll talk 2 pages around, what is a concept? So he just discusses what is the word concept, give some examples, and then how you might use that. Another one is how to argue, how to be right, how to be wrong, how to agree, how to disagree. Mm-hmm. And like, I think it's a problem this day and age, like, because in the education system, we're always just looking for the right answer. There's a right answer. And if we don't get it, or we fail things, people are disappointed, we don't get a job, we don't pass something. So then it makes you stop thinking for yourself. You're just trying to look for the right answer. So then you're not getting hassled about, you didn't do it right. Because no one likes failing, and no one likes being called out for like being wrong. But if you learn to think for yourself, you could just go do a course. You could go do like the Austrian ski instructor course, come away and be thinking, that's why they teach it that way. Like, because now I look at all the associations and I go, I can totally understand why they teach it that way, and they don't teach it the same in Japan. They don't teach it, like, they have these differences in Australia. Like, I can understand why. And like, I really enjoy that, because now I don't go, they're not right, they're so different, they do it. Yeah. I just go, I can understand that. And it makes total sense why. And learn to think for myself through guys like that. Edward de Bono has been really helpful. Yeah, because I don't want to be that guy who's like, everyone's doing it wrong. Like you said, what are ski instructors doing wrong? I think they could just get a lot of help by learn to think for themselves.
Yeah, buy it. And I'll also buy the argument, and I'll probably buy that book too. I think you sold it rather well. It sounds very interesting. I'm into such stuff. What do you think what is the most common mistakes like skiers do?
I think
doesn't have to be the ski technique thing. It could be something else that limits them from becoming better.
Yeah. Actually, well, that's a really good clarification. Again, I think it's that people don't look for alternatives. So again, you try a certain way. If, say, you start out skiing and it was so easy, whatever you got taught or the method you did, and then you get to a certain point and you plateau, and you keep trying to learn it the same way you did, or thinking about it in the same way you did, and you're a little bit stubborn to change your way of thinking, that might be something that's totally against your beliefs. I think that is so for example, that's where I've seen most of my clients get the biggest change from. It's when they change the way they perceive something that maybe was a negative or the wrong thing, and it actually turned out to be the thing that opened up the next door and allowed them to keep going. So I think it's looking for alternatives when you hit that barrier, and really trying to seek some different perspectives and understanding.
Do you have some advice for people how they can find those different perspectives?
Well, that book is the first thing, because if you're not looking for it already, like, they're all out there. All these different perspectives are out there. It's on YouTube. It's on. It's in Google. Even within the ski town or the town you're at, you'll find that answer. But if you're not looking for it, it won't be there. Like, if you're in the market for buying a new VW van, suddenly you see them everywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, because the brain's a filter. It's just a filter. You think of how many things are coming in through your eyes, your ears, your senses at this moment. Yet I'm pretty much 98% focused on you. But but there's all this info, so much info, that if I switch to it, I can absorb it.
Basically, go looking for it.
Yeah. Be open for it. It's there. And I don't know. I feel the world is pretty, like, I want to use the word magical, because it does seem like that. I surprise myself. I go, oh my God, I don't understand about something, or I need to know about this. And I wonder how I can find that out. And, within a week, somehow, like, someone's reached out to me asking maybe a slightly different question, and they happen to mention that they've got expertise in this area. And then I find out the information, and it's there, you know, because I'm open to, I need this info, where can I grab it from?
Yeah, I like that. To add to that, I would advise people to, just ask people, ask your friends who ski better. Don't shy away in the park to ask a stranger in there if you see someone that did a nice trick that you want to learn. Ski up to them, say, wow, that was really great. How did you learn that? What are you thinking about? And how can I learn it too? And you'd be surprised how kind and thoughtful answers you might get back.
Absolutely. And that's your story, right? A lot of your content and everything, you've gone out and you've found someone that really is an expert in that little area, like the best person at Butters. Like, he knows it, and you find out from him, right? And if you're only finding out from one avenue and you're not open to that, then you'll never happen. But you know, you've had Red Bull athletes say, sure, I'll do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Look, I can explain how to do it, but I just got to think about how to do it. That is a negative sometimes with, you don't always want to ask the best person ever to do things, because some have just been so talented that they don't really know what they're doing, why and how. But sometimes they can be great too and thoughtful and smart about it. But you never know. Andrei Regetli is a good example. He's on top of the game, but also extremely thoughtful on how he does things. So he's really good.
You found he's been that, like, you can ask him, like, why do you do it that way, or how come or what are you feeling here, and he'll be able to really give you a clear answer.
Yeah, despite having been so talented, most tricks have come really easy.
That's rare. That's really rare. The same thing asking this guy James Matheson, who's on the Australian mogul team. He's like, as an athlete, he can explain technically what he's trying to do when they hammer down those moguls, like at that speed. Most of them would just give a really, I'm just trying to stay forward, absorb. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's simple. Why don't you just do that? Whereas, as we know, like, people can't pop. Yet they can do it in the living room. What are these, like, 15 steps between the pop? That's where the learning's at, isn't it? Like, that's what I'm really interested in. I got to ski 4 days this ski season in Australia, which absolutely broke my heart, because I was ready, had a lineup of content, and COVID lockdown, and I can't leave Sydney. No one could. But on the positive side, like, I picked up some rollerblades and tried to figure out steps there and how I could then teach others how to use rollerblades to learn ski movements that, because you're slower, you can do it, outside of the season. Finding those little hacks, to short or make the little progression much easier. That's the trick, I think, to accelerating your learning. Like, you can learn way faster, I think, than most people think. But as you know, it's through these little broken down steps.
Yeah, and it's fun that you bring up the rollerblades. How do you? Yeah, tell us more about it. How do you use rollerblades to teach skiing?
Yeah. Okay. Well, the first thing that's really good. Do you know so you're back to the drill, the boring drill of balance on the ski? If you start playing on rollerblades, like, even just balancing on one foot on a rollerblade, because you're on kind of like a knife edge, it's like your ankle is wobbling like crazy. So you first learn how to use your ankle muscles, a lot more finer sensitivity in controlling that. So straight away, you just rollerblade around, you're going to be better. And you've seen it, right? You get people who are brand new skiers, and what have they've never skied, but they've ice skated. They pick up skiing way faster than anyone else. You've seen it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. Rollerblades is just another way of doing that. The other cool thing with rollerblades is most rollerblades have, like, say, 3 or 4 wheels that are the same size. And so on a rollerblade, if you go straight ahead and you tip a rollerblade over, it doesn't turn. It goes straight. Okay. So rollerblades are almost like going back to straight skis. So you actually have to figure out fore and aft movements on a rollerblade to steer it. So remember, so then we're talking about the fore and aft thing I was mentioning. So a beginner now feels, oh, I have to put more pressure on the front wheel, less on the back. Now I can pivot around on the front wheel because the back wheel is kind of just scraping the concrete just slightly, but the front wheel is dug in.
Mm-hmm.
Now the blade can turn. And then your inside foot is completely the opposite. You can't do forward pressure on both front wheels. You'll just fall on your face.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually put backward pressure on the inside foot. Now you're pivoting off the inside foot, off the heel, the back wheel. So now you go around like that. That's exactly the same when you make a short turn. Yeah, most people don't know that. So a little bit of gold given away there for like more steered turns. But this ability to manipulate something that doesn't want to turn, rollerblade doesn't want to turn, go straight. How do you do that? Big things, you know, you hear all the time, like Austrians, so much importance on fore and aft movements and balance. You've come across that, yeah? Yeah. It's why, because they what kind of length and radius ski do most of the Austrian instructors ski on?
What do they have? I don't know. I don't meet too many Austrians here.
Long radius, like 23, 25 meter. Like
oh, really?
180 centimeter skis. Yeah. So you know Benny Walk?
No, I don't.
From YouTube. He's worth looking up on YouTube. Incredibly athletic skier. He mostly skis on a GS ski everywhere. You wouldn't be able to really tell it if you didn't really know. He's just like cranking short turns and long turns. Him and a few other of the Austrians. But yeah, they've learned how to manipulate it. And so you could actually take rollerblading, back to rollerblading. You can learn that from rollerblading because you have to do very similar kind of things to actually turn them.
So would that be true as well? Like I haven't come across that before. So forward pressure on the outside ski and then heel pressure on the other one.
Try it.
Would you also do that on on all skis basically? Or is it just on the long one?
Steer it. Only if you want to steer it.
So skid them.
Yes, skid it exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you want to skid that thing, that's one method. Because remember, like there's just different methods. So as beginners, if you want to make the skis light, there you go. You're playing.
Yeah.
If you try that, like, can you kind of feel that if you're trying to turn, can you feel it actually works all the way up into your hips better if you go forward on the outside foot, heel on the inside?
Yeah,
try
like it
forward on both. Try forward on both.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're a freestyle skier, you know what forward on both is. Forward on both is a nose butter, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so in skiing, we don't want to, like, what do you get picked on when you make a short turn? Your upper body's rotating.
Mm-hmm.
The nose butter, you've got to rotate. You get forward, like that's the trick to it. So a short turn, how do you stabilize the upper body? You do an opposite pivot point through the fore, like the outside foot and the inside foot. Now the thing turns much more easily.
Now when I tried it while sitting on my chair, straight away when I did it, I was like, I think I do that. Or do I? Like, because
no, to get to where you're at, you are doing that. But now if you focus on it more, you will be able to be more refined. You might change, like be more active with your inside ankle. So not just kind of sit back on or like push on the back of the boot of the inside leg. You might flex, use your muscles in the front of your ankle, right, to help lift it up. Yeah, but that was a real realization, particularly on rollerblades. And when I'd get someone come along, like I had a guy and he could already ski okay, but he bought some rollerblades and we would do some coaching stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like he's there and his body's all out of position. And rather than fixing his hip rotating and sitting to the outside of the turn, that I was drunk after my level 3 saying, I'm going to ban the word rotation. I taught him what to do with his feet to manipulate the skates, and the pelvis rotation, the hip rotation just started going away.
It's a fun topic we're into here. I should go and do some rollerblading maybe. No, I don't have to. I'm going skiing on Tuesday again. That's good.
Yeah. But you know what? You should as well. You can just muck around with things on it. And so one more thing on the rollerblades. I've got a client in Utah and he's been rollerblading every couple of weeks all over summer and working on his ski technique, and he's improved hugely. And we've rollerbladed to look like skiing, right? Because you can just rollerblade around like how some people do, but it's not really going to help your ski technique. Anyway, just recently I noticed that where the wheels were on the rollerblade were basically the wheels were sitting more under his big toe.
Okay.
So, right? Now, we've been having some success with where his body position is and getting angulation right, but it was just something funky going on. And again, being open-minded, like back to asking questions, how do I find out all this stuff? Finally found out from a guy about like where the foot placement is on the blade. And if you look it up, YouTube, there's tons of information about setting up your skates correctly where you want it to be. Anyway, we moved his wheels 1/8 of an inch towards the pinky toe side.
Mm-hmm.
So his big toe could hang over the edge of the blade more easily, which just meant he could just roll his foot without much resistance. Straight away, the video he took, he's starting to show angulation. So his body was fighting leverage of his foot trying to basically roll to the outside, not the inside in a turn. And his body gave us a picture of weirdness because he was fighting this balance. So I'm currently working on how to explain what you can do with your boot setup and things you can check with boot setup to make sure your ski boots don't have the same effect on your ski turns.
What do you think every intermediate skier should look up in regards to the ski boots? Yeah.
What should they look up?
Or change.
That's.
I know you like ski boots. I've seen that on the internet.
Yeah. I like discussing equipment and getting the most out of equipment. And what could an intermediate do? Like, again, being open-minded. Footbeds, I don't completely agree with.
Okay. And
there are boot fitters out there that make a really good footbed, but then there are boot fitters that perhaps don't. And I worked in a shop, like a really big shop in London at one stage in my life, and I was taught how to make footbeds there, along with my, other 5 friends who were working in the shop. And I would not, if any of my friends or family went and got a boot from them, I would definitely not recommend it, because there was some weird stuff coming out of those footbeds. And, people's feet were in all sorts of because the idea is a footbed support the arch. Yeah. That's what most people think, support the arch. If you over support it, and I'm doing inverted commas here, you block the movement to roll your ankle in. So pronation, rolling the ankle in, that is something you must have skiing. You need that movement. And if the footbed is so supportive that it blocks that, then now you've locked out the ankle and foot from being able to doing any fine-tuned stuff. So what do you start doing? You start leveraging the knee over, or you start leaning the upper body. Like the rollerblade guy example, almost where the wheels were, it blocked him from pronating because his weight was actually rolling to the pinky toe edge, which is supination. So he couldn't pronate. So what does he do? He pushes his knee over. That's the next joint using like hip muscles. He leans his upper body. So to intermediates, it would be just check your footbed wherever you got it from. If it is really thick, like you take it out and you put it on the table, if you can't actually push the footbed like down, like if it just stays really hard, my suggestion is I don't think that's going to help your skiing.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it might help you because another reason why they're really popular is because it'll help you inside your ski boot not have ankle and like inside foot ankle bone pressure, because you stop the pronation, the foot can't move against the side of the shell, and so you get no pain. And so the new ski boot, the problem is you pronate, the inside of the shell is not the same shape as the inside of your foot, so you get pain. And so the footbed and the podiatrist goes, oh, you got too much pronation. See, you do this, no wonder your ankle's hitting the side of the boot. Yeah, now you've just taken away the body trying to help roller ski over super easily. So you got to like,
I like it.
Yeah, what are you really doing skiing for? So then I have to say then, if you go for less support, be ready to pay your boot fitter or with the boot fitting experience, get some customization along the inside edge of the shell. So my boot has punches for my like medial malleolus or the inside ankle bone, for the navicular, for my heel, all these places where there's not much muscle, there's just a bit of skin over the bone. And when I go to press my foot against the side of my boot, I don't want pain. I need like a little pocket for that foot to sit in so I can, roll it over.
Nice. Well, I think it makes perfect sense what you're saying. I haven't heard anyone else say that before. I have been recommending custom footbeds a lot, but the ones I always had in mind and had myself are just, this, it's like a flat tray and then, the custom it for your arch, and that would pass your test. If you stand on it, does it flatten? Yeah. So it's not that supportive. While I have in my ski bum days bought some, standardized insoles with support on the inside that was actually like built up with some foam, I can see how that could have done that to my own skiing. You see the ones I mean, that's not just a sheet of footbed, but has actual, some foam stuff under it.
Yes, yeah, like a stiff, almost, or maybe another type of material that's a bit stiffer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes some sense.
Yeah, and so I mean, like again, I'm kind of cautious on this topic because I don't want to piss people off for one, and I think boot fitters are doing a great. It's like the same as ski instructors. Who do they learn from? From someone else who says arch support is the best thing. And if you'd asked me again when I worked in the shop in London in like 2014, I would have said get a good footbed. It's essential. Like you must have it because that's what I'd been taught and everything until I started ripping my footbed apart. To the point now, I've got a new insole coming that is an anti-supination footbed. It is a full promotion of pronation footbed. It is like get your foot pronating like you've never pronated before. So complete of like support, right? And I've tested some versions of it before this, and I love it, and it works really well. My foot feels more comfortable. I can edge easier. But you have to be careful with that stuff because it's so against the current, like the paradigm that's out there now. So how does that footbed work? Does it have support on like the blade of your foot? No, it's like now we're going down a real rabbit hole. Like, so here's the thing: your foot doesn't need support. Like, there's an arch there because arches are like you don't build an arch bridge and put support under it. You build an arch bridge well because it can cross a river. You know, the load sort of is spread out over the whole thing. That's how an arch works. And then like a suspension bridge means now it can give. So our foot can be a mobile adapter, can hit the ground, change, you know, to sticks and rocks. And then when we need to move forward, it can get rigid again through the way the bones are put together and propel us forward. So if you start with that as you're thinking, okay, my feet, I just need to like place them well and then, you know, align myself, use my muscles. Now my arches work like arches. There's more than one arch. There's many arches in the foot. You just keep looking. There's like a lateral one, a transverse one, a medial one, and there's arches within arches. So you just get all the arches working. You don't need any support. You now have this super high-tech functioning foot so with this insole, all it does is allows space to be able to move. Well, again, for the ski boot thing, allows your foot to move closer to the edge. Like picture halfway through a carved turn, a freeze frame, someone like way over, trying to balance on their outside ski edge. Like the point of balance is the edge. Mm-hmm. It is like on ice, it's like so tiny. So then if that's actually like take the rest of the boot out, your body is trying to balance on that edge. So you need to get the foot closer to that point. And so this footbed allows that almost within inside the boot. And then it uses different materials. It uses Kevlar and carbon fiber because Kevlar is energy absorbing. So you don't get as much like sort of like instant pressure feedback. Whereas then you have underneath a layer of carbon like it feels pressure straight away. Like it doesn't compress. So your foot gets feedback faster than any other kind of material under the foot. So you've got these layers, your foot can respond faster. So I can feel what my foot's doing better. And then there's all sorts of like, I have to show you it. It's,
but what does it look like? Is it just completely flat to allow you to do this? Or does it have, yes, please get it.
So this is the footbed that I ski in for a while. So,
nice.
You know, if this people listen to this, not watching this, it's flat as a pancake.
Yeah, with a few different layers in it.
Yeah, so that's carbon fiber.
Mm-hmm.
And this top bit is just a blank CDAS footbed. And the reason I've got that is because the top material, CDAS, it's a really good material for your foot to not slip on when it's sort of sweaty. Because there's a problem with, say, a regular insole you get with your ski boot is actually it's quite slippery. And so, I mean, just think about it, trying to pop on slippery ground. Your nervous system is so sensitive, it feels that stuff and down regulates like your muscle control and how much output you can put in the system. So that's it. But the new one coming that's in the post from the US it's got a carbon layer, which is pretty similar to this one here. And you can see like it is paper thin.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh, you know, yeah, I get why you use carbon. You know, it's in my cycling shoes. This gives no leverage like carbon fiber does in a cycling shoe. Cycling shoe is meant for like, you know, you can push down here because it's rigid. It pushes the pedal down.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually about pressure. And so you put your foot on this and your foot, again, the arches just work better. So then the other cool thing with the new one is it actually has, I can't give too much away because the guy who invented it, like it's his proprietary information. But basically there's almost like a teeter-totter going on. And so your foot inside the ski boot, the footbed can go, can you see I'm kind of like going, dun,
mm-hmm.
dun, dun. So again, totally against the current norm, which would be stabilize the heck out of it, lock the foot in neutral, don't let it move. I'm trying to allow my foot to move more, but move more to a position that gives me ultimate alignment, like when in a turn.
So does it have almost like a tiny triangular wedge under it?
It's like a channel V.
To tip left and right. Yeah, it's completely against it.
Like this, right? Yeah. So then if you put your weight on this side, so if you pronate your foot, the thing tips and sits pretty stable here. It's not wobbly, just, it just kind of goes to that side and the other side. And it's like not much. It's really minute. But man, it's like noticeable. And again, the way like one of the biggest things I've understood over the last few years is levers, understanding levers. Biggest thing with levers is where the load is relative to the fulcrum point, like make it either easier or harder. So if you can move a load, you make something either easier or harder. Like I'm trying to just play with that sort of stuff. And you know what, like in 5 years time, maybe I'll go, wow, Tom, that was like such a wacky idea. But I'm going to learn so much through doing what everyone else says don't do, that like that's what life's about. I love learning and experimenting, and you always make, like, you've got to learn from your mistakes as well.
Absolutely. No, I'm thrilled about it. I almost want to buy one now, but you
should seriously get it. I guarantee, with the amount of skiing you've done, especially freestyle, and I'll tell the guy, like, this guy's also like into jumping, he'll probably tweak it so it's better for dealing with impacts and more vertical forces. And like you will notice it. I guarantee you.
Because I am curious, because I for the last 2 years I got into either running barefoot or in like barefoot shoes, because I have a feeling you might do that too.
Yeah.
I can see from the dirty feet, but also the way you talk about it. It's worth mentioning to the people listening that basically everybody knows it in the medical community, that if you support something, if you wear a big knee brace or a shoulder brace, anything that really supports muscles, is going to make you super strong in that moment, that day. But if you use it regularly, anything you support will get weaker. And that is also the argument with your feet. They are not getting flat because you're wearing Converse shoes. They're probably getting flat because you're wearing supported shoes, or just walk too much on flat, non-human ground like concrete, and that's flattening it. While actually walking over roots and grass and in non-supportive shoes, you're going to get stronger arches of the feet. It just makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been really interested in, like with the ski boot thing, like this guy who, his name is Adarian Barr. By the way, I should credit him. His website is Barr Running, BARRUNNING. Like, I've learned a lot from him about footwear. Like, every shoe design, like, again, will influence your arches. So like the Converses, like the way they are, will manipulate and your foot will find a way to work within that Converse shoe. But it might not be the most ideal way, right? It's just trying to work within, say, where it's narrow, like even the shape of like the heel, like how the lacing, where the lacing is affecting how your foot flexes. Like all shoes have an impact. You think about like shoes with a big heel that sticks out beyond where your actual heel is. That's adding like a lever point behind where your body's lever point usually is. So you've got your heel working upon another lever, and then so there's all these levers upon levers, and so just it's not going to kill you. It's just that's what's going on, and your body's dealing with that. And so if you wear them all the time, then you might adapt and just find the easiest way to deal with wearing Converse shoes or big chunky heel shoes. Then you can try and do other sports and you're terrible because
my next concern with your mega flat footbeds is what about the argument that first of all, you shouldn't tighten the lowest two buckles too tight, but if you do, there's this argument that you're gonna flatten the foot and it's gonna lose circulation. You're gonna get cold feet. What are your thoughts on that with the flat footbeds?
Yeah. So again, like this type of insole actually creates space. Now that's like really important, this idea of creating space instead of just taking it all up. If my foot is trying to roll this ski over and this boot over, and you take a ski and you sit on the ground, it's very stable. It doesn't want to roll onto its edge. It takes effort to do that. So you're leveraging that. Your body moves in a certain way when it tries to leverage and tip something over like that. If you have space that your foot can move into, now like your body won't look for space elsewhere. Like if it's supported with arch support and it tries to push into this space, it's got nothing there. Guess what it's going to do? It's going to lift up the pinky toe. You're going to push out to the pinky toe side, and you're going to try and pull your pinky toe up against the top, like, where that first buckle point is. Your pinky toe is going to go, because you get leverage there to lift it over. And that's a sore point on nearly every single skier. Yeah.
On me, certainly.
Yeah. Since switching to these, I find less problems in my feet because I'm not blocking my foot and I'm not forcing my foot to find another solution around having no space to pronate and position myself there. So yeah, circulation now doesn't really become an issue.
Oh well, yeah, buy it. I am very curious to try it, to let the feet do a bit more maybe natural movements, but yet confined into this very unnatural plastic shell. We got to find a balance.
Yeah, and I back in 2013, that's when I started going, you know what? Because that's when I started studying something called structural integration, which is all about like a body work that helps align your body, and it's like amazing stuff. Like anyway, learning about the body, learning about feet, and I'm like, hang on, this is not making sense with my footbed. And then found a guy on the internet who's talking about, that's not, footbeds are not actually like the best thing. And I'd already been into barefoot stuff, like Vivo barefoot shoes. So I was like, I'm going to experiment with it. So like, say the stage you're at, I just took my current footbeds and I took a hairdryer and I peeled away one of the layers that was stiffer. So now there was just less stiffness. The footbed could move more, and then went from there until now. Here I am, and I'm going beyond flat to actually almost negative space into pronation. So it just keeps going. And be a point where it goes, it's too far, but I need to find where that is to then be sure of where and why I want, the setup that I will eventually be really happy with.
Do you know of any elite skiers playing around with this these days? Like World Cup racers. Do you know anyone?
Not that I really can confidently say so. Like I've heard stories that Bodie Miller basically used to like not have much of a liner, so he would really play with like the shell. And so here's the thing, like, my foot and say someone who goes, no, I don't, like I have a footbed, I don't punch the inside of my boot. Those people might, like there are people who are born to ski. Much of an ankle bone, you've got a better advantage. You can move your tibia, your lower leg bone, closer to the edge. That's already going to be easier to balance and ski. You're not going to have pain. So then you're not, as soon as you feel pain, your body moves away from it. So you're always going to find arguments like my partner against Sam competed on the world stage. He didn't do much stuff. And, he said he used it like it's not a very stiff footbed, but he has a bit of a footbed. He didn't do much grinding and punching, but his legs are dead straight and his foot is already like rests in pronation. So he is like set up to be on that edge. Whereas you look at my legs go bowed. I have big ankles. If I don't modify my boots, I'm in pain, like really quick. And so I move away from the foot. And and that's the wrong way for skiing. So there are people kind of doing it, but like when you get to the top, you've pretty much weeded out the people like me that can't get there because I'm stuck messing with boots or I've got pain. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that help explain?
Yeah. It does. What about the fore and aft setting inside of the ski boot? Do you have any opinions on that? I always leave my boots in the middle setting, however many degrees it is. And to be frank, I've never tried changing it. But I do know that I prefer to have a more aggressive forward stance, rather more than less.
Before I go on that, I will say, like, I won't mention who they are, but like they're very good skiers, not ski racers, but demonstrators. And they don't have a footbed. You know, one of them, I remember him getting a footbed from like the local boot fitter, and he just took it out like within like an hour because like I can't ski. And you know, this is better than just about any, you know, technical skier in the world. He's incredible. And so yeah, I know anecdotally from those people, but yeah, the World Cup level, not sure, but I think my best sort of reasoning is when you get to that point, you're already pretty close to being like set up as a good skier. Your anatomy is a skier's anatomy already. Okay, so that aside, the fore and aft stuff, and I have to probably go in a few minutes. So I'm going to answer that with like I put a lot of this stuff into like say 20-minute, 25-minute tutorial videos on my website. So I've got a section that's being added to in this preseason on boot setup. So I talk about the footbeds. I talk about liners. Like you wouldn't believe what you can do with your liners and what some of the members are getting results with, like modifying their liners. I talk about the fore and aft setup. And maybe a good place to go for the first bit of info to learn about that is I did an interview with a guy named Brent Armsbury. So if you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see an interview with him. He talks about that forward lean. But yeah, I describe like what individuals should do in more detail on my website. But quick answer, your Achilles tendon, how loose or tight that is. I'm going to guess, do you have a pretty, like you've good ankle flexibility?
Yeah, way better than average, I've been told.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So those kind of people will prefer more forward lean. And you will also prefer one thing, if you haven't played with, you'll prefer a flatter ramp angle. Because, again, when you want to really lever things forward, the Achilles, you need it to be taut. Okay? If you have a super loose one where your knee is like way past your toes before your ankle range runs out, you want your boot set up possibly to be closer to the point where you are not running into your boot cuff when the Achilles goes naturally tight. Does that make sense?
So you want the tongue or the front of the boot to stop the forward movement before your Achilles tendon go tight?
No, that's why you prefer more forward lean, because your Achilles is allowed to get tight. Whereas if say your boot is upright, your Achilles is loose. When you flex and you hit the front of the boot, like you're pushing into the boot and your Achilles is still loose. And so think about what your Achilles does. Your Achilles anchors to your heel. Your heel then has plantar fascia and tendons all the way up to the ball of the foot. When you get tension through there, you've got this like L shape that you can lever forward. If the Achilles is loose, you keep pushing your shin and it's just like a gear stick. It's useless for getting forward pressure.
Cool. So I'm gonna try it. For next week already.
Yeah, the thing what you might even find is, because sometimes having too much forward lean, like you might find there's a better compromise where you're a little bit back and you have a flatter ramp angle. So you actually take the boot board and you reduce it. So that's what I've done. My boot board is like 1 degree. And it came like 3.5. And when I get there, I feel I'm like way more responsive with my 4.5 movements. Then with a boot with more ramp angle, my Achilles doesn't get tense. Like I have to squeeze my muscles instead of just the range of motion in the ankle tightens the Achilles. So everyone's individual and different. That's why some people go, oh, I need a heel lift. Well, totally. Those people probably have a really tight Achilles tendon. And so you need to give them a bit of slack, because otherwise they're like just on the ball of their foot all the time. You know what I mean? Like when they actually lean forward, the heel doesn't even touch because their Achilles is so tight. They're just, yeah.
Yeah, I see it, and it frustrates me with the freestyle guest I coach when they have a tight one. They just can't flex the boot. They can't pop. It seems to hold back a lot of people from turning properly too, that they kind of end up bracing the outside leg, making less than dynamic turns.
Yes.
Interesting. Do you think that could have a negative effect on, let's say, on both my short turns and carb turns? I'm kind of trying to have a bit more upright transition, even heel heavy, perhaps.
You probably want what'll help you is maybe reducing the forward lean, and reducing the ramp angle. Because again, that's just changing like this angle that will tense the Achilles. Yeah.
Okay, so get the toes inside the boots a little bit higher instead.
Yeah, or drop the heel. So most good boot boards, you can take it out and someone will be able to grind it down. It depends what space you've got. But if you lift the forefoot, like you're going to change where you're, if you've got punches for that sixth toe area, right? Like just, but the cool thing is you can experiment. You can just put some like duct tape layers to lift your forefoot. Even honestly, like 1 millimeter, you'll notice it, and you'll know if you'll go, ooh, you either like that or you can't feel it, you need a bit more. Oh, yep, there's the right amount. Yeah, you'd probably be able to pop better.
Yeah. So you do think that the more forward boot angle, if done with just the boot itself, that could be harmful for what I'm trying to improve in my turns?
Yes. Like if you just keep leaning the cuff more forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do. Because you'll be stuck kind of almost too squatted. Yeah. Just think you can always change an angle in the body 3 ways. You can move like one bone this way, another bone this way, or both, the same. So if you're only thinking about it from the top, you're only using like half of the ways of solving this problem.
Yeah, now I'm curious to try it. So the cheap and easy to reverse way is the duct tape.
Yeah, and that's called gas pedaling. So you can even just get some business cards. I'm not recommending this because, like I'm saying this now for liability reasons, because you put it under the toe piece of the binding and then you step your boot in, and now your forefoot of the boot is elevated however thick you put under there. Do that at your own risk, but that can be a way of experimenting and finding out before you go to permanently grinding stuff. So
yeah, the risk of ripping your knees to bits, obviously, for you listening, if you put stuff under the toe of your binding, it's gonna push up to the top of it, and then the DIN settings doesn't work. It basically gets jammed in there.
Yeah, the friction plate won't. It's designed to be within a specific tolerance, and so do it at your own risk. But if you're just pretty careful, you'll feel it in the first turn. You'll feel it just skating to the lift. You'll go, oh, yep, I like this. Or you go, don't think it really helps. You'll know.
No, that's cool. Do you have to leave in a minute?
Yeah, I got to go pick up my little boy from daycare. So.
Alrighty. Hey, it's been great talking to you. I really enjoyed it, especially that you're a little bit far out there with the insoles there. The opposite. I love that. I'm not sure I'm going to love actually skiing with it, but I like someone who dares to think outside of the box and explore things.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? It's just, yeah, I've come to the point where I just like accept that. And some people think it's a bit out there, and that's fine. I'm really enjoying my own journey of learning about skiing and then teaching others, because there's so many, we're all individuals, right? And like I said, the people that make it to the top naturally fit in, you know, things work and they don't have problems. They don't have to try and fix them. But most skiers are not that, right? Otherwise the Olympics would be so, yeah, like it'd be full of people. So yeah, I'm trying to help find out solutions so like more people can find the enjoyment of progressing, because that's what's fun, right? Like you're at a certain level, next season you want to get better. Like I'm not happy with where I am now. I want to get better, you know, because I enjoy my skiing, but everyone loves pushing the boundaries. That's the, you know, that's what's the joy is, right on that challenge, but not too challenging point, you know, so which means you're learning. So yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. And for you guys who are listening and watching, yeah, check out what Tom is doing on big picture skiing. He makes some great tutorials. They are very, very in depth on ski technique.
They are, yeah. It's not for everyone, but yeah, you'll know after listening to me if you know, people will know if it's worth checking out. And you can do a free trial. Like it is, I put all my best stuff, you know, behind a paywall because it's my job, as you know, you do with your stuff. But yeah, you can try it out free of charge to see first for 7 days if it's, you know, good. But yeah, I think there's some good stuff in there. Thanks so much for having me on the show again.
And let us know in the comments if maybe we should talk again. And you can also suggest topics. We planned on doing a bit of video analysis. You know, you could send us some videos of your turns, and maybe we can analyze them at another time. Would you be happy to come back on?
I would, for sure.
Excellent. Wonderful talking to you, man.
Thanks a lot. All right, I'll speak to you soon.
Have a good day, man.